if you watch the videos for the previous two questions, then you heard me talk a lot about the chronology rule and on the line references that matter. And so for number 26, we found some really great information about our question here. It was a no line reference question, but we found some great information in lines like 57. And we also know the last question we did have a line reference on was question 25, where they asked us about the word popular. So if you look at this pair and you look at these line references, there are some lines that are ahead of that, right? 38 to 40, 40 to 46. Now we still need to read them, but according to the chronology rule, which we saw get broken earlier in this passage, but we're still going to come back to. According to the chronology rule, it's much more likely that C and D are right. Let's see if it comes back, if that rule is restored for us. It was restored for number 26. We were able to use it to help us. We're going to try it again here, and we're going to see if it matches up. So first, though, we still need to follow the QLC method for our evidence pairs. Let's make sure we know what we're looking for based on the question. It can most reasonably be inferred from the passage that the experiments in Trinidad have shown which of the following about guppies. So this is kind of like, what are the findings, right? Shown which of the following. What are the findings? So let's go to the lines, 38 to 40. I'm still going to read them, even though I don't think they're right. We're still going to read it. That's right here. How quickly, though, could these differences in how the two kinds of guppies lived their lives have evolved? It's a confusing question. How quickly, though, could these differences in how the two kinds of guppies live their lives have evolved? Well, that's asking a question. It's not telling us any findings. The answer to that question is probably the findings, but the question itself is not going to provide evidence of the findings. So that is wrong based on just the lines. We use a different color. Confirms our chronology rule and what we thought that it wouldn't work from there as well. 40 to 46. 40 to 46. Because there are numerous tributaries of the streams in Trinidad, with guppies living in some but not all of them, Resnick realized that he could, as he put it in a 2008 paper, treat streams like giant test tubes by introducing guppies or predators to places they had not originally occurred, and then watch as natural selection acted on the guppies. Well, again, that's not a finding. That's telling me how they set up the experiment, but it's not telling me the result of the experiment, so it can't tell me anything that was shown about the guppies. Unsurprisingly, the chronology rule, it works here, right? We tend to not notice when it works. We tend to focus on the times that it doesn't, and then we think that, oh, it's not worth using, but it works most of the time, and right here, the chronology rule is helping us. Lines 53 to 56, that's right up here. Now that's close to the place where we found the answer before, so I wouldn't get rid of it completely. Sometimes the lines overlap a little bit with the chronology rule, but it's not. I'd rather it be D. Let's see what C says though. Along with his students and colleagues, Resnick removed groups of guppies from their predator-ridden lives below the waterfall and released them into previously guppy-free streams above the falls. Again, this is not about the findings. This is about the experiment. This is telling us what he did, not what he found. So that doesn't seem right. Let's look at 67 to 72. Right here. Other studies of guppies in Trinidad have shown, it's convenient, have shown evolutionary change in as few as 2.5 years, or a little over 4 generations, with more time required for genetic shifts in traits such as the ability to form schools, and less time for changes in the colorful spots and stripes in a male's body. There's a lot packed into that, but right now I don't care about the specifics, I only care about the general fact that those are clearly findings. So it's definitely D. I have no doubt about it, and there it is. It follows the chronology rule perfectly. Now let's go back to 27 and read the choices and see which one matches with those lines. I can go back to those lines and try to understand them better. Some genetic traits will evolve more readily than others. Well, they do talk about, let's see here, some required more time and others required less time, so that seems to match up with more and less readily, right? That means kind of like easily. So that seems to match. B, some predatory fish are more dangerous to guppies than cichlids are. That is true. That is 100% true. They say that earlier on, but They didn't say that in those lines. And they didn't, in fact, actually say that in any of the lines that we read. The lines where it say, we may have read for a different question, that's right here, right? The killifish are predatory, but they do not pose anything close to the danger of the cichlid. So this is very important for evidence pairs, is we need to make sure the lines actually say the answer. This is true, but it has no reference backing it up, so there's no evidence that it's right according to question 28. So for our purposes, it's as if it's wrong. It doesn't matter. It can't answer the question. C. Some guppies thrive better in areas below waterfalls than they do in areas above. Well, no, the whole point of the experiment is when there were no predators and they were above the waterfalls, they thrived more, and we were able to see how they thrived and changed. But notice in line reference D, they're never comparing above and below waterfalls. So again, even if this is true, line reference D does not support this with evidence. And D, some genetic shifts are easier to prevent in a natural environment than in a lab. Well, they're not really talking about a lab, so that doesn't really seem true. And they're certainly not comparing a lab to the environment. It seems like we're still talking about the environment. So that just seems random. And so yeah, the one that matched is the one that was right. I shouldn't have been surprised by that, but that's why we make sure. So yeah, a lot of good things here. The QLC method got us to both the answers fairly simply. We were able to find matching ideas by narrowing our focus to just little bits at a time. And most importantly to me, the chronology rule, which had taken a little bit of a blow on an earlier question, is suddenly back. And there you go. That's why it's a great rule. It doesn't need to work every time, but it works most of the time, and it can help us and give us reassurance on answers as we pick them. So yeah, that's a perfect chronology that choice D was right. I feel really good about that.